Chris Cuomo here. Welcome to News Nation, my brothers and sisters. This is where right and left come to try to be reasonable. Oh, it's getting tougher, isn't it? The FBI raided the home and office of Trump's former national security advisor and really, come on, let's be honest, known Trump critic John Bolton. Okay? Trump was coming after him right before this happened. In fact, Bolton was fighting with the administration when this raid was happening. Is it not related? Well, if you don't want us to think that, you better do a better job of explaining what happens, because that Bolton's places were raided is the only fact we really know, which would make it a fact, okay? Everything else is kind of a guess. It's also the only aspect of this situation that is agreed on by the crazy on the right and the crazy on the left. Because on social media, instantaneously, there were two apparent and insistent conclusions, okay? This is payback for lawfare against Trump. Now his enemies will pay. Like the ultimate two wrongs makes abuse of might right. The other is no. This is completely baseless. And it's proof that Trump is an authoritarian and is going to do it everywhere. Both are fact-free and faithless. Why faithless? Because it just proves you're just about the other side being worse. You're not about better. You're not about being any better than what you oppose. Not with those kinds of takes. Every night I say this is the place where we come to try to be reasonable. Let me remind myself what that word means, okay? Move up so I can define it correctly out of the dictionary. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Prompter. A reminder of what the word means. Reasonable, Latin, okay, rationis, meaning not based on irrational or extreme thinking. Let me tell you something, okay? People in my position are not going to say this. It has never been easier to be a reasonable voice in this public society. Not more than right now. However, succeeding has never been harder. Because what you want, what you absorb, what you watch. Now, is it fair to say you? No, because you sought out News Nation and you oversample independent critical thinkers. But this is what's going on around us, okay? What resonates is what provokes. The algorithms pick it up. These people are getting paid on it. They put their ads next to it. All the pod people know it. All the independents know it. And that's why they're feeding you things that will trip the algorithm. And that's all they're feeding you, okay? If you don't pick a side, and you don't weaponize whatever you can, just like the Bolton raid, cherry-picking, perverting to persuade, you're nobody. You're nowhere. I am constantly in trouble with one side or the other. My kids are harassed. My wife is harassed. My family is harassed. My friends are harassed by these fools that fade every time they're in my face. Why? Because you've got to pick a side. Because we're all fringe all the time. And I keep saying to these people, there is a side. Our side. Not the powerful only, not the few, the many, the majority in a constitutional republic. That is patriotism. That is all you need to be, said George Washington with the help of Madison and Hamilton in writing his farewell address. Be a country, that is all. We are doing the opposite, and we can get through nothing because of it. We are so vulnerable. You people who are looking and taking up the proxy of people in Gaza and painting Israel as the great white oppressor and looking at Ukraine and Putin and thinking like, oh boy, let's mess with that. We are the weakest of all of them in the mix because we are completely divided as a society. Israel's not divided on itself. By the way, people in Gaza aren't really divided on itself. They don't want Hamas. They're just under the yoke of oppression. People in Ukraine, I've never seen anything like that before. Those people are given blood and treasure, and they're doing it readily for their country. And Russia, you don't see them trash talking one another, do you? Mostly because it's not allowed. But you don't see it. Just us. Just us. Keep it in mind. But here's my prayer, all right? I don't care. I signed up for the criticism. And I want the fringes to know something. I want you both to die, along with the system that spawned you. And obviously, I'm talking about the entities, the dynamic, not the people, all right? I don't do anti-people, I'm pro-people. I'm an optimist. I'm a ridiculous optimist. That's why I do this maddening, unsatisfying, unrelenting job. It's not the money. Thank God, I don't need the money. It's the sense of purpose that you can get by doing this. And if that means that I have to have the people who are going to be popular attacking me at all times, then fine. Because here's what I know that they don't seem to recognize. They are on the dying end of this dynamic. Independents are growing. They are the fastest growing part of the electorate. And that is true, red, blue, moving. White, black, any color you want, any creed you want, any economic strata you want. We are all moving that way. And that's my hope. That is my faith-based recognition. When I saw this Bolton thing go down exactly as I knew it would go down. When that Maxwell tape came out, Ghislaine Maxwell, and we'll talk about that tonight, and she says exactly what I told you she would say, and it gets treated exactly the way, hold it there, I told you it would. So what do we know about Bolton? Nothing. And why is that not okay this time? Okay, well, you never know. Well, but they don't always act this way. We're told, oh, yeah, it's about classified information. Like the menus are sometimes classified out of the White House. What is this really about? Classification, is not impressive to me, okay? So, well, it's actually about more about that, and it's about foreign and who he may have given to or what, and the CIA, and they gave the FBI a little bit of a look into what it could have been that he could have. You know what that sounds like to me? How the dossier was sold to us early on. That's what it sounds like to me. And why does that bother me? Because either you want to be better, you campaigned on this, that it was done wrong. And now this feels the same, and you know that, and you can correct it, but you haven't. And I gave Kash Patel and Dan Bongino grace after Epstein. You said you were going to be transparent, you people. That's what you campaigned on. Not with the UFOs, not with Kennedy, not with Epstein, and now, where is it with this? I gave them grace about Epstein. They should have the opportunity to come out and say why they're no longer pushing what they used to sell when they were pod bros. All right, let's be open. Let's see what may have changed. That's as fair a treatment they've gotten, but I'm not giving it to Patel on this. Why? Because if you're going to tweet with Bongino and Bondi, you saw how they tweeted, right? If you're going to tweet and put that out there like you're writing some kind of Avengers episode, you better tell us more than you did here. No one is above the law. Public corruption will never be tolerated. America's safety isn't negotiable. Yeah, okay. Where are the Epstein files? Where are the Epstein files? You obviously have all the tools of the trade. Where are the Epstein files? Yeah, you know what? They were selling you BS. And if that's not what this is, then you better tell us more. Practice the transparency you promised. I don't know what this is. Maybe maybe Bolton is going to be charged with 100 crimes. I don't know. I don't care in terms of the outcome, as long as it's fair and based on things that matter to us. But this is not the way to do it. And I'll tell you what, I do not have reason to believe that the president planned it this way. Obviously, they wouldn't have done it if they didn't think he'd like it. But when he said today, yeah, I didn't know when they were doing it. I don't know that that's untrue. And I think this is another example, like with the Epstein, like with the UFOs, like with Kennedy, like with tariffs, where he has people around him who are not making him look good. The campaign promised transparency. They haven't done it. The campaign said the time for lawfare was over. If that's not what this is, because you know that's how it was going to be seen, you should have told us. Oh, but then he would have run away. You tell me the last time we've seen an FBI raid yield things in one of these political investigations that was meaningful. Oh, well, they got two different judges. True. And I have to believe those judges know we're going to look them up because these are controversial. But it is the lowest standard of legality in our system. Probable cause. What does that mean? There's a fair chance that if we do this search, we may find proof of criminality. Based on what? Oh, the affidavit. Of who? Of one of the feds. Oh, okay. I mean, it's a pretty low bar, let's be honest, by design. But they had to sign off on this, so there may be something. I'm open to it. You have to be open to it. But if you say you want to be better, you should practice it, and that's not what this was. This flies in the face of what you said you were going to be. And I think that matters. Unless you just believe that you didn't mean what you promised, or that MAGA's just going to swallow whatever you feed it. But you learned with Epstein that that's not true. Here's the reasonable assessment. We don't know what this is, so don't say you do. And I don't know what they mean by classified documents. Again, could be the menus. And don't say that you didn't say this during Mar-A-Lago. Mar-A-Lago was totally different, okay? For all we know, they just did what they always do, which is surprised Bolton on this. It's not what Mar-A-Lago was. I covered it in real time. I was reporting on it in real time. It was stupid for the feds to go in like that. They took the bait. Trump and his attorneys, they went to them multiple times, asking them to cooperate, asking them to just, let's do this. They did not want to go this way. Trump played them, in my opinion, and played them well to his advantage. But Mar-A-Lago was not what they do to most people. It was the opposite, okay? Now, I'm not saying I liked the raid. I think it was a waste. I think the whole scenario was a waste. I think the impeachment processes were a waste because they were never going to lead to removal. And the idea that they were about a higher principle, we're not about any higher principles. You don't believe they're about any higher principles. But don't say this was Mar-A-Lago, and don't say you were quiet during Mar-A-Lago. I wasn't. I said exactly what I just told you here. That this is a waste of time, and that this is what do you think was going to happen? He wanted his attorneys to keep pushing them and say, no, we're not going to help you. What do you think was going to happen? He just made a calculation it would work out in his political advantage, and he was right. Trump's attorneys were involved in that. I don't know that Bolton's were here. Nobody has said that to us. If there's something there, tell us more than we usually get, because we need more than we usually do, because we don't trust anymore. And you're one of the guys who told us not to trust. And then you went into the position of power that you asked to have so that you could restore trust, and you didn't do what you said you would do. Not with the UFO stuff, not with the Epstein stuff, not with the Kennedy stuff, and not with this. And I'm talking about Patel. I'm talking about Bondi. Why aren't you talking about Trump? Because they're doing this stuff for him. And they sold themselves too. We don't know what happened here. All I know is that the judges signed off on the searches, but that's a low bar. And, you know, if it's real, great. Good. Go after him. Go after everybody. You know, I mean, whatever works to get us to a better place. Let's bring people in now and talk about this, who have done this job, who understand what this can be and what not, and also can give you a fair assessment of what I see this as, right? Which is, look, I don't know that it's a phony thing. I don't know that it's payback. I don't know that it's real. I don't know any of those things. I just know that that's everybody's choice of take. I disagree with those takes. So let's get the legal and political perspective, okay? And the I told you so that is the Ghislaine Maxwell thing. But now what are you saying? Oh, well, she only said what Trump wanted her to say. Listen, you said you wanted to hear it from her. She has now said, and we heard the tape, that it's exactly, there's no list. Now, it's not that Trump was hiding because he was a pig like Epstein. Why would she lie? The truth would only give her more power. Trump's former lawyer, author of Defiant, Inside the Mar-A-Lago Raid, okay? Talk about somebody who's a good, source on what I was talking about with this, Christina Bobb, okay? She was actually at Mar-A-Lago. She'd be able to tell us all about it. But, you know, we're not just living in the past. We'll look at the future also. I'm also joined by former federal prosecutor Berit Berger, okay, and former FBI and CIA special agent who I told you has a connection to every story I cover all the time, Tracy Walder. So each and all, thank you very much for being with us. Christina, just to set the table for us, it's good to have you. Congrats with the book. But the idea that, hey, when they did it to us, you guys didn't care. Now they do it to Bolton and you care. Yeah. I don't like the comparison because I don't know what this is about. And I did not see Mar-A-Lago. I saw Mar-A-Lago as a complete waste of time, but I didn't want more of that. What is your take on what you went through, and what is your thought about what we're seeing now?
Well, I just want to remind everybody, I am currently a criminal defendant, still being prosecuted for political supposed crimes that never occurred, for a state that I wasn't in, for conspiring with people that I never communicated with. So while I admire the outrage about how we need to, lay off of our political opponents, I would respectfully ask the left to go first. Let the 60 of us or so that are still being prosecuted, let us go. There's no crime. You didn't do anything. So I'm not particularly sympathetic to that argument. And then as for Mar-a-Lago occurred all throughout the day. The pictures that you see in the evening, that came after Donald Trump made the raid public. And people forget that it was Trump who made it public. And Merrick Garland took 3 days to respond to it. He didn't come out. He didn't take ownership. The Biden administration said, I had no idea this raid was going to happen. We didn't know. The press fumbled through it for 3 days. And then finally, Merrick Garland took authority over it. Kash Patel came out in the morning when the raid was beginning and said, hey, this is mine. I did this. They took ownership of it from the beginning, which leads me to believe that they're not trying to hide anything, that they are confident on the probable cause that they have. You're right. We need to see what happens. And, I want to see how this plays out. And it certainly is politically sensitive. But I don't believe for a second that this is tit for tat or retaliation against Mar-a-Lago. It is nothing like Mar-a-Lago. It's open and transparent.
The only thing I'll push back on, and then we'll move the conversation forward, is you are absolutely sympathetic to the argument I'm making. There's just 2 points of correction. One is,
okay.
I don't carry water for the left or the right. I think both sides are killing us. The parties are killing us, and I want to see both of them die, the parties, the entities, not the people. But you're sympathetic to my argument. You just think it's a one-way argument, that they're only making it now because they don't like people being targeted by it, but when they did like targeting people, then they didn't care, and I agree with you. But you're sympathetic to my argument. You just think it's not going to be played out that way. I get you, but the distinction is a meaningful difference. Berit, I'm not saying that they did this the wrong way, but Christina's point that Patel is owning it is not this. Why wouldn't owning it be, hey, let me tell you what's going on here right now. It doesn't have to compromise my investigation, but I'm going to give you reason to not suspect that it's payback.
Yeah, so just as an initial threshold, normally in a run-of-the-mill case, you would never hear the Department of Justice expounding on why a search was conducted, the details of what was in that affidavit. The affidavit is not public unless there's some sort of criminal indictment later on. So that's just the threshold of how a normal case works. Why would this one be different? Because it carries this sort of atmosphere of potential taint with it, right? When you have somebody who has been a very vocal critic of the administration, and you also have a president who took office saying this was going to be a term of retribution, you have now this swirling air that even if this is absolutely legitimate, people are going to be hesitant to give the Department of Justice the benefit of doubt. That's why it would be important in this circumstance to break protocol, to give a little bit more information, if nothing else, to sort of quell that criticism that this is being done only for political means. If there's something there, tell people, put it to rest right away.
And look, you're right. That's the way the FBI usually does it. And while I love Tracy Walder, I hate the way they normally do it. The media has always been antagonistic towards federal investigative authorities because they're quiet when they want to be and they're loud when it works in their favor. I only got into the FBI defending business when the man who became president of the United States decided to make everybody not trust everything about our democracy. So I'm in no rush to trade how defend how you people do things, Tracy. But what do you see in this today in terms of, does this look like it should look? And second, what would be so wrong with Kash Patel not tweeting something cryptic with his pals, but coming forward and providing some transparency to people about what this is?
So I'm actually going to agree with you here, Chris. There's actually nothing wrong with him coming forward.
Well, that's not interesting.
And providing a little bit of transparency. And let me tell you why I'm actually going to go here. This lack of transparency that we see really creates this uncertainty around the CIA, around the FBI. And I have to be honest with you, is not good for the safety of the American people and national security apparatuses as a whole. And that appeals to both sides. Both sides are doing this, and it's really eroding the credibility of these institutions And I feel that that actually makes us less safe. So coming forward with just a little bit of transparency actually would be incredibly beneficial here for individuals at both the CIA and the FBI.
Christina, I'm afraid your head's going to fall off from you shaking it back and forth so much. You are the beneficiary of what we are arguing for here. You are the beneficiary.
I'm not,
Nobody
though. That's the
knows
problem.
that they went after you. No, nobody went after you. Nobody knows they went after you because there's no transparency on it. You know, this isn't what we talk about.
But that's not the Trump
unless people like
administration.
who it
That's
is.
the Biden administration. That's the Biden
I know it's
administration.
the Biden administration, but they said they'd be better, and now they're playing the same kinds of stupid games. That's my point,
because you have to
Christina.
clean it out. So there's two ways to resolve this, arms race of political weaponization of justice. The first way, the preferable way, and I think the way we would all agree on, is the people who started it need to just say, you know what, we crossed a line, we went too far, we're going to stop. And everybody just agree, okay, we went too far, let's everybody back up a little bit. But the problem is, I say the left, and I recognize it's not exactly a left-right issue, but the left is still coming at us. They're coming at us at a state level, they're coming at us at a local level. The left has weaponized the justice system, criminal and civil, more than the right at this point. And the right doesn't feel like they can just lay down their arms because the left is going to continue to come. So if the left doesn't say, we have not heard this narrative from anybody, you know what, we all went too far, let's all agree to stop. They're saying, no, Donald Trump stop. They're not stopping. I told you, I'm still facing my charges. And they're not stopping. So at this point, we say, okay, well, the only way to make it stop is to push back on you. So that's where it's at. We just say, we want you to push back so you stop coming at us.
I get it. I don't like it. But I understand why that's your I understand that's why your perspective, and I hate the situation that you're in. I know your case. And I wouldn't have had you on if I thought that, because then you have no credibility. If I believe what they're doing with you, then, that's all I'd be able to talk to you about. And I don't. Christina, thank you. You're always welcome here. Berit, appreciate you. Tracy, thank you. Now, I want to take a break, 4 minutes and 35 seconds, and just keep it straight, okay? I'm not saying going after Bolton was wrong. I don't know. I'm saying I don't agree that the people who started it have to finish it, unless we're talking about Hamas or Putin. You start a war. But if you want better, start with what you do, okay? Nothing gets better in your life because you wait for somebody else to do something. Come on. Governor Wes Moore is living proof of this proposition, all right? He said, hey, look, I want to be governor. I think I can do things and make this better. Baltimore is better. Why? And what does he represent to the future of his party?
I want to say that loud and clear for anybody, especially in Washington, D.C., who might not hear me. If you are not willing to be part of the solution, keep our names out of your mouth. Donald Trump, if you are not willing to walk our communities, keep our name out of your mouth.
That was Maryland Governor Wes Moore clapping back at the president for wrongly stating that Moore's hometown of Baltimore is so far gone when it comes to violent crime. And now the governor, though, which is a classic Governor Moore move, which is another reason I want him on, reaches out to the president and says, hey, I like that you care about crime. So do I. Come and visit. And I got to tell you, people who see that as, oh, why is he reaching out to Trump? Shut up. That's what a leader does, is try to get the president of the United States to care about where he is. All right? Now, in the past 2 years, what's the proof in the pudding? What has crime done in Baltimore? All right, let's just cherry pick what matters most. Homicides, okay? It's down 40% in 2 years. How? Oh, they brought in the National Guard. No, of course not. It's not like he's anti-military, right? He's a veteran. But they did the hard work. They did how do we police, where do we police, what programs are needed, where's the crime, what's happening in those communities, the hard stuff, governing, And it's been very effective. So let's bring in the governor and let's talk about how he did it and what he thinks is going on and what he thinks happens next. Governor Wes Moore. It's good to see you, sir.
It's great to see you, sir.
And I know you talk about the mayor in Baltimore also when you talk about what's happening in that city, Brandon Scott. You know, I don't want to make it all about you, but, you know, you describe it the way you want. So, Gov, Baltimore is a rough place. You know it. You grow up there. I've been there dozens of times in my life, but it's not where it was. Why?
You know, I remember when I first became the governor, we saw how Baltimore went through 8 straight years of watching over 300 homicides for 8 straight years. You know, that the year before I became the governor in 2022, Baltimore was recording about a homicide a day. And when I came in, I said there is no way that I was going to be a chief executive that was going to offer thoughts and prayers and give eulogies, but not actually address the issue the way that was done during the 8 years before I became the governor. And so we started doing something really unique. We started working together. We started working together with the mayor of Baltimore, with local law enforcement. We've made the largest investments in local law enforcement in our state's history, and that includes over $50 million that went to the Baltimore City Police Department alone. That we started investing in technologies and predictive analytics, because you can use technologies to actually keep crimes from happening. And I was very clear that if someone committed a violent crime with a firearm, I wanted them in handcuffs in 24 hours. And I was very clear that we're going to work with our community groups, our violence intervention groups, and our violence interruption groups, because so much of the violence that we were seeing was retaliatory by nature. And so the results that we were able to see was because we were actually willing to do the hard work. We were actually willing to work together. We were actually willing to work with the community and work with local elected officials and work with law enforcement and work with our state's attorneys and our U.S. attorneys. And to be able to say that if preventing violent crime and if public safety was going to be my #1 priority, that there was nothing that I would not do, and there was nothing that I would not instruct every member of my administration to do to make sure that people could feel safe in their own communities and in their own homes.
So, Gov, you reach out to the president. He says, yeah, sure, I'll come. And he comes, he looks around, he says, oh, nice job, this worked. I shouldn't have said it's, you know, so far gone, or whatever he said. I'll bring the National Guard here for you. I'll help you the same way I'm helping D.C. What would you say?
Well, I'd love for the president to take us up on our offer and actually come walk the streets with us, because, you know, we know that we still have more work to do. I will never be satisfied if one person does not feel safe in their neighborhoods and their communities. And that's why we are often doing community walks. It's often why we are inside of our communities talking to our neighbors. And what I want is for, if the president is going to make comments about Baltimore City, then the president should actually make sure that they are informed comments. Because the truth is that the comments that he is making from the Oval Office, the personal attacks that he's made on me from the Oval Office, they are not just inaccurate, they're ignorant. And so I would just love for the president to be able to come and spend time.
I'm with you. I hear it. I think it's a good idea. And he's not like, shy about going places either. But what if he says, I want to help the way I helped in D.C.? Would you accept it when you know that your party's left flank would attack you like you were back in Afghanistan?
Well, here's what I know. I'm the 63rd governor of my state, but also I take very seriously the fact that I'm the commander-in-chief of the Maryland National Guard. I have had to deploy members of our National Guard in times of emergency and in times of crisis since I have been the governor. And also, I know what the weight of that is, because I personally have worn the uniform of this country. I personally have deployed overseas. I personally have led soldiers in combat. And so I understand the weight and the gravity that comes whenever you are activating soldiers to be able to go out and perform functions. There's a few things that I know about that. One is that our members of our National Guard are not trained to do municipal policing functions. That's not what they are trained for. And so we have to be very clear and very intentional about what are we actually using them for, to make sure that we're actually honoring the service that they're performing for the people of our individual communities. The second thing I know is this, is the pot, the capital, the investment that goes every time you activate the National Guard. And we're talking over $1 million a day that it costs to do this. That is not a bottomless pot. That's coming from other operations that are taking place. So right now, as we are preparing for the potential residuals of Hurricane Erin, that's now coming up the coast, that will be hitting all the East Coast states. That pot that we're paying for to pay for members of the National Guard to do municipal work. Exactly. So let's be smart about taxpayer dollars. Let's be smart about how we're actually using investments, because if the president came to me and said, you know, Mr. Governor, I have $1 million a day to give you right now to make our community safe, I can give a whole list of things that I would give, that I'll put it towards, that would actually make our community safe.
Let me ask you about your party. So Governor Newsom in California is getting traction, and I keep hearing the same word, muscular. Muscular. The way he's tweeting like Trump, he's going at Trump, he's getting in Trump's head. Muscular. Muscular. Do you believe that that is how your party, which nationally is in a real doldrums, gets back? Is that the kind of muscularity that you think you guys need?
I honestly have not paid attention to the tweets of Governor Newsom or the tweets of President Trump, frankly. You know, we're very focused on the results we're delivering for the people in our state, because we know these are trying times, and we know the people of our state are struggling, and they're hurting, because they are watching the prices of everything go up because of these tariff wars. And that includes everything from the electronics that they're using to the food that they're eating. You know, we are watching how Maryland has had more federal employees laid off by this administration than any state in the entire country. It's now over 12,000 Marylanders have been fired who are federal workers. And so we are now coming up with creative ways of making sure that they are taken care of. We have a Feds to Eds platform that's showing for federal workers who've been fired by Donald Trump. We're now trying to get them as quickly as possible into classrooms. If they're interested in being educators, get them trained, get them certified, get them in classrooms, get them in hospitals to serve as nurses, get them in the private sector. And it's one of the reasons that I'm really proud that Maryland's unemployment rate right now at 3.4% is still about a full point lower than the national average. And so we've been focused on delivering results for the people of our state, and I think that's why the people of our state seem to appreciate the work that we're doing. So I honestly have not had time to focus on tweet wars.
I see what you did there, Gov, and I respect it, and I like it, and I'm going to allow it to check the box for the audience and move on with one quick comeback, which is, I hear you, and I like the high road, making the better case and just getting it done for your people. I respect it, and it is the righteous path. But I did just hear you tell the President of the United States to keep the name of your city out of his mouth. That is not exactly ignoring the tone and tenor of how this is kind of getting a little chippy between people here. How am I to understand you saying that to the president of the... I could see you saying that to me, but to say it to the President of the United States seems a little muscular.
Well, but you know why? Because I'm always going to fight for my folks. You know, one thing that people have learned about me is that, you know, I'm not a career politician. This is the first office I ever ran for in my life. I don't come from the world of politics. I'm a soldier. That's my training. That's my background. And if you come after my people, and if you come after the folks who I represent, best believe that we are going to come back. And I think about where Baltimore was when we first came on board. I mean, think about it. When I first became the governor of Maryland, Baltimore's Inner Harbor, the downtown area, was in receivership. That when I first became the governor of Maryland, there were over 17,000 vacant homes in the city of Baltimore. I just mentioned about what the homicide rate was in the city of Baltimore. But if you look at what's happened in the past 2.5 years, there's an absolute renaissance that's taking place that we're proud of, that we've cut the number of vacant homes in half, that we have now been able to have a vibrant new vision for what the downtown area for Baltimore is going to look like, that Maryland, the state of Maryland, is seeing amongst the fastest drops in violent crime anywhere in the United States of America, and we are proud of our progress. And so I am a soldier, and I fight for my people. And so that's the reason I was just very clear that if anybody wants to be a vehicle for the solution, I will ride with you. And I will work with you, and I will do it I will do it excitedly. But if all you want to do is take pot shots and use tropes at the people of my communities or the people of my state understand my training is I am a soldier, and we will clap back.
Listen, I hear it. I don't want any of the smoke, Gov. I didn't even come at you when I beat you in that football bet. You welched. I haven't said anything about it. I let it go. I let it go. I don't want any trouble. I don't want any trouble. Governor Wes Moore, you are always welcome here. And I know you say no a lot because you're busy and you're doing what you're doing and you're getting a lot of attention for it. And I think it's deserved. God bless you and the family. Thank you for being on News Nation.
God bless you too, Chris. Thank you.
Take care. 4 minutes and 30 seconds. So, yeah, I got dragged into this Ghislaine Maxwell thing. No, I didn't expect that. Why? Because this is the problem. What is this? What? This is what the DOJ? This is what we're doing now. So I don't even know who the guy is. You seriously? I don't think so. I don't even know who she is. Anyway. This is where we are in society, and I'll take your questions about it. Because it's got to stop. And no, it's not they started it. We got to all be better. Now, Eric Menendez, Lyle Menendez, they say they're better. The parole board said, no, you're not. Stay in. What about Lyle? He had his shot. Lyle made his case. What is it? Does he have a better shot than his brother? Next. All right, it's been 30, almost 5 years behind bars. That's what the Menendez brothers have done in terms of time served for blowing both their parents' brains out. Now, just moments ago, the older brother, Eric, got parole denied yesterday, right? Lyle, also convicted of blowing out his parents' brains, made his case before a different board. News Nation senior national correspondent Brian Entin is outside the prison. There is no decision, but what do we know?
Yeah, hey, Chris, it was around this time yesterday that we got a decision on Eric Menendez, so we're waiting. It could happen really at any moment. We'll let you know. It was interesting with Eric yesterday, Chris, because they went over his extensive disciplinary record within prison. I mean, he had cell phones. He was paying $1,000 for cell phones over and over again and kept getting in trouble. There were drugs. There was heroin. There was marijuana. There was inappropriate contact with his wife in a chapel in front of her daughter. There was gang activity. There was this illegal tax scheme that he was accused of, which I still don't understand how you get involved in an illegal tax scheme while you're in prison. They never explained it, but he had a long list. The difference with Lyle today is, from what we know, his record isn't quite so bad. We know there were some cell phone violations, but not much beyond that. So it could be a different outcome today, because yesterday, Chris, the commissioner said with Eric that the main reason they decided not to grant parole was because of the way he acted in prison, not because of the crime. So I'm really interested to see, will we get a different outcome for Lyle? We should be finding out here really within the next half an hour or so, hopefully, Chris.
I like the analysis with one caveat, which is different parole board, and maybe they have a different point of emphasis. You know, they're just people, right? They're given a set of guidelines, but they can have whatever emphasis they feel collectively in that moment on that day. So, Brian Entin, thank you. Always being in the right place at the right time. Thank you very much. All right, we'll take a break. We'll be right back, and I will tell you the truth about two things that seem to matter a lot. I screwed up my timing because I was too into my screed at the top and talking to Governor Moore, but those are more important for you anyway. So let me go through a list of frequently asked questions, all right? One, yes, I am a volunteer firefighter. No, I'm not going to talk about it because I do it for my family and my community, not for my job. 3, yes, I just turned 55. 4, yes, my daughter did just have what you could think is her first real gig at Surf Lodge in Montauk. It was amazing. I've never enjoyed anything more in my life. Truth. Yes, I just turned 55. Yes, I have lost weight. I'm telling you, I let Nika and Nino use my image for Gym in a Box, the LA thing, because it works for me. I don't own the company. It's their company. They're great people. I've had her on the show because, you know, she's dealing with the tariffs as somebody who's a small business. But I wear it. In fact, sometimes I wear the belt here when I'm working because it supports my back, and you can, you get a little sweaty, but I get sweaty anyway. That's another story. Now, here's the last thing I'll tell you. I don't know Maxwell. I don't know Epstein. Why would they even ask about me? Why? Because that's where we are in this business now. You are looking for dirt and to play gotcha and to show who's worse and all the time. And now I'm going to have to deal with it. Now, even though, I don't think so. What does that even mean? I don't think so. You don't remember who you met? I don't even know who you are. Never met Epstein in my life. But this is where we are. And it's making us sick. I'm telling you. We'll be right back. Such an interesting idea, Leland. I was actually thinking about you when Bob made the point, Christina Bobb. We really think the left needs to start first and say, okay, we went too far with lawfare. We won't do it anymore, because the right is just defending itself by doing it now. That was our argument. I have never heard that work in any adult setting before. Either you decide you're going to be better or nothing ever changes.
Well, in American politics, the new paradigm is do unto others what has been done unto you, but a little bit worse. It's the reciprocity multiplier of a bar fight. And that is, I don't think, a good thing. And, there were a lot of us, you included, me included, who, when the cases were brought against Donald Trump, especially the one in Georgia, especially the ones in New York, we're going, this is a really, really dangerous gate to open, and you can't unring, you can't, to now add a few more cliches, you can't unring this bell.
Yeah, unless they decide to do what you do on a regular basis here, which is not treat somebody the way that they're treating you, but the way you think people should be treated. You know what I mean? And that's the only,
I'm hearing echoes of my grandmother.
Yeah, well, I'm about the same age.
You have lost weight. You look good, my friend. It's good to see you. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too, bud. Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our News Nation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.